stepmother tried to replace my late mom and forced me to forget about her, so I ran away. Fast forward to now, my dad is dead, I own my childhood home, and my stepmother is reaching out begging me to talk. When I was 13, my mom died suddenly. My dad sat next to me on the couch like if he moved too fast it'd make it worse. We stayed like that for a while, frozen, grieving, at least that's what I thought. Then one day he brought home Darla. Darla was the kind of woman who made your chipped nail polish feel like a moral failure, always perfectly blow-dried, always wore lipstick like she expected a camera crew to appear at any moment. She cried twice over dinner and called it closure. Then she started redecorating like my mom had just been a roommate who forgot to pay rent. First, the art studio, my mom's space. She scrubbed out the pastels, threw out the brushes, replaced it with a sterile desk setup and some generic print that said grind. Then she took down the hallway photos, told me they made the house feel like a graveyard. And then, because erasing my mom wasn't enough, she donated my stuffed animals. The ones my mom gave me for every birthday. The ones that still smelled like her. I checked the trash, just in case, but couldn't find them. When I cried, Darla called me dramatic, said I was overattached. My dad told me to be understanding, as if healing looked like pretending it never happened. So I stayed quiet. I got good at that. Then I turned 18, and I remembered one thing. My mom's ring. She promised it would be mine one day. My dad said he'd give it to me on my 18th birthday. So that morning, I sat there at breakfast, waiting for something that felt like her. Darla handed me a box. I opened it. It looked like someone had tried to craft a ring out of tinfoil and petty cruelty. Your dad said you wanted a ring. She smiled. I stared at her. Where's mom's ring? It's time to move on. No. Where is it? She laughed. Actually laughed. I gave it away. You don't need it. I don't remember what I yelled. I just remember the chair crashing back and her yelling louder. My dad stormed in and told us to calm down, like we were toddlers arguing over a crayon. She's your family now, he said. No, she's not. I packed a duffel and walked out. I never looked back. 6 years, new number, new life. I worked hard for peace, and I almost kept it until my dad died. Stroke. Funeral was full of strangers. Darla stood at the podium like she was auditioning for Grieving Widow the musical. She didn't mention me, not once. After the service, she chased me down in the parking lot, tried to hug me like we were old brunch buddies. I stepped back so hard she stumbled. She blinked. Still grieving wrong, huh? I didn't say anything. Then a week later, I got a call from the lawyer. My dad left me everything. The house, the land, the accounts. Not a single word about Darla. And suddenly, the woman who erased my childhood was emailing me like we were sorority sisters reconnecting. She left wine on my doorstep. Said he wasn't thinking clearly. Said she took care of him. One time she outright told me to just give her everything. I said no. She smiled and said, this isn't over. She meant it. She contested the will, claimed I manipulated my dad, that I twisted his grief, that I poisoned him against her. She even dragged my medical records into it, tried to make me look unstable. And that's when I found the letters. Boxing up his study, I found a folder shoved behind a shelf. 4 letters. One was mine. He said he was sorry, said he failed me, that he let Darla take too much. And by the time he realized it, he didn't know how to fix it. So he left me everything. That letter saved me in court. So did the trail of shady transactions Darla had tried to wipe. The judge ruled in my favor. Darla left without a word, just that tight smile that never reached her eyes. I didn't celebrate. I just packed his house, quietly. Then came the knock. 3 people. 2 older men and a girl who looked like she hadn't slept in weeks. The tall one said, we're looking for Darla. She doesn't live here anymore. The girl stepped forward. I saw it right away. My mom's ring, on her finger. She gave it to me years ago, she said. Said it'd buy her time. The man handed me a card. She owes more than that now. Tell her time's up. I closed the door and realized whatever Darla was into, it didn't end when the court case did. I stared at the card for hours that night. It was for some place called Coastal Investments, with just a phone number. No address, no website, just a name and number. I googled it and found nothing. Not even a fake business listing. That seemed weird. Most scammers at least pretend to be legitimate. The next morning, I woke up to 3 missed calls from a number I didn't recognize. I ignored them and started cleaning out more of my dad's stuff. His closet still smelled like his aftershave. I found a box of old photos Darla must have missed in her purge. Pictures of me and mom at the beach. Dad teaching me to ride a bike. Normal family stuff that shouldn't make you cry but totally does when everyone's gone. Then my phone rang again. Same number. I finally answered. Hello? Is this Rebecca? A woman's voice, not Darla. Who's asking? My name is Tina. I'm the girl who came to your door yesterday with my uncles. I sat down on the edge of my dad's bed, the one with my mom's ring. Yeah, look, I need to talk to you. Not over the phone. I almost hung up. Getting involved with whatever mess Darla created seemed like a terrible idea, but that was my mom's ring. The one thing I wanted back more than anything. Where? We agreed to meet at a coffee shop downtown. Public place. Lots of witnesses. I'm not completely stupid. I got there early and picked a table near the door. Tina showed up right on time. She looked better than yesterday. Less exhausted. She ordered a black coffee and sat across from me. Darla's gone, she said, stirring sugar into her cup. Disappeared after the court case. My uncles are mad. What does this have to do with me? Tina twisted the ring on her finger. My mom's ring. The emerald caught the light just like I remembered. Darla borrowed money from my family. A lot of money. Used some jewelry as collateral. She pointed to the ring. Said it was worth way more than it actually is. I reached for it instinctively. That's my mom's. Tina pulled her hand back. I know, but it's complicated now. She explained that Darla had been borrowing money for years. Started small at first. A few thousand here and there. Then bigger amounts. Always with some story about investments or business opportunities. Always promising huge returns. Classic con artist stuff. But what does this have to do with me? I asked again. Tina looked uncomfortable. Some of the loans, she took them out in your mom's name. My stomach dropped. What? She had documents, identification, birth certificate. She told my uncles your mom was alive and just couldn't come in person because of health issues. I felt sick. Darla hadn't just erased my mom. She'd stolen her identity too. That's impossible. My mom died 6 years ago. Tina shrugged. Darla's good at faking things. And my uncles aren't exactly checking with the Social Security office. I realized then what kind of investment company I was dealing with, not the kind with office hours and customer service reps. So what do they want from me? I asked, already dreading the answer. The money. Or at least some of it. They think since you got everything in the will, you got their money too. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so absurd. I didn't get money. I got a house full of memories Darla tried to throw away and a bunch of bills. Tina didn't look convinced. My uncles don't care about your family drama. They want their money back. And they think you know where Darla is. I stood up, grabbing my jacket. Well, I don't. And I don't have their money either. Tina grabbed my wrist. Not hard, but firm enough to stop me. Look, I'm trying to help you. My uncles aren't nice people. They think you're involved somehow. I pulled my arm away. I'm not. I haven't spoken to Darla in years until the funeral. Then help me find her, before my uncles decide to make this your problem too. I walked out of the coffee shop feeling like I'd stepped into someone else's nightmare. On the drive home, I kept checking my rearview mirror, half expecting to see Tina's uncles following me. They weren't, but that didn't make me feel any safer. When I got home, I noticed something I hadn't before. The lock on the back door looked scratched up, like someone had tried to get in. I grabbed a knife from the kitchen and checked every room in the house. No one was there, but someone had definitely been through my dad's office. Papers were moved, drawers left slightly open. I called the police, but without anything actually stolen, they just took a report and told me to get better locks. Super helpful. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what Tina had said, about Darla using my mom's identity, about the money, about the ring. I wondered if there were other things of my mom's that Darla had pawned off or used as collateral. The next morning, I went through my dad's financial records again. I found statements from accounts I didn't recognize, credit cards in my mom's name with massive balances, loan documents with her signature that looked nothing like her actual handwriting. Darla hadn't just stolen a few pieces of jewelry. She'd created an entire financial identity using my dead mother's name. I called the credit card companies first, tried to explain that my mom was dead, that someone had stolen her identity. They transferred me around, put me on hold, asked for death certificates and account numbers I didn't have. One rep actually told me I needed to have my mom call them directly. I hung up after that. I needed help, professional help. I found a lawyer who specialized in identity theft. Guy named Marcus who looked about 12 but had good reviews online. His office was above a pizza place downtown. Not exactly inspiring confidence, but his rates were reasonable. Marcus listened to my story without interrupting. He took notes on a yellow legal pad like lawyers do in movies. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. "This is a mess," he said, tapping his pen against the pad, "but not unfixable." He explained what we needed to do. File police reports, contact credit bureaus, gather evidence. It would take time and money, but we could untangle my mom's identity from Darla's fraud. "What about the loan sharks?" I asked. "The ones who came to my house?" Marcus frowned. "That's trickier. They're not going to care about legal paperwork." I left his office with a to-do list a mile long and a knot in my stomach. On the way home, I stopped at a hardware store and bought new locks for all the doors. I installed them myself that afternoon. Not perfect, but better than nothing. That night, someone slashed my tires, all 4 of them. The police came this time, but just shrugged and said it was probably random vandalism. I knew better. The next day, I rented a car and drove to my apartment. I hadn't been back since the funeral. It felt weird being there, knowing my dad's house sat empty across town. I packed some clothes and my laptop. As I was leaving, my neighbor Frank stopped me in the hallway. "Hey, someone was looking for you yesterday," he said, leaning against his doorframe. Older guy, kind of scary looking. My heart raced. "What did you tell him?" "Nothing. Said I didn't know you that well." Frank shrugged. "He left his card though. Said to call if I saw you." Frank handed me a familiar card. Coastal Investments. Same as the one Tina's uncle had given me. I thanked Frank and hurried to my rental car. They knew where I lived now. Great. I drove around for a while, not sure where to go. Eventually, I ended up at a motel on the edge of town. Paid cash for 3 nights. The room smelled like cigarettes and cheap air freshener, but it had a deadbolt and no one knew I was there. I spent the next day making calls from my motel room. Credit bureaus, banks, insurance companies. I sent emails to Marcus with copies of everything I found. The more I dug, the worse it got. Darla had been busy these past 6 years. Credit cards, loans, even a mortgage on a beach house I'd never heard of. All in my mom's name. Around noon, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me I should. It was Tina. She sounded scared. "My uncles know you're looking into the loans. They're not happy." "How did they find out?" "Someone at the bank called them. They have people everywhere." She paused. "They're looking for you. You need to be careful." I hung up and immediately checked out of the motel. Paid for another night to buy time, but grabbed my stuff and left. I drove to a different motel across town and checked in under a fake name. Paranoid? Maybe, but better safe than sorry. That night, Marcus called with news. He'd found something in the mortgage paperwork for the beach house. A co-signer. Not my mom, not Darla. Someone named Victor Reyes. "Who's Victor Reyes?" I asked. "No idea," Marcus said, "but his signature is on a lot of these documents. And get this, he's listed as your mom's brother on some of them." My mom didn't have a brother. She was an only child. This Victor guy was another part of Darla's scam. I googled the name but found too many results to be useful. I tried adding my mom's name, then Darla's. Nothing helpful came up. Then I tried Victor Reyes and Coastal Investments. Bingo. A small article from 3 years ago about local business leaders. Victor Reyes was described as an investment specialist with Coastal Investments and allied partners. I sent the link to Marcus. He called back 20 minutes later. "This guy's connected to some shady stuff," he said. "Nothing concrete, but lots of rumors. Real estate deals that fell through, investors who lost everything, the kind of guy who operates in gray areas." So he's working with Darla? Or she's working for him. Either way, this complicates things. The next morning, I woke up to a text from an unknown number. Just an address and a time. 2 p.m. No other information. I almost deleted it, but then another text came through. "If you want your mom's ring back, be there. Come alone." I shouldn't have gone. I knew that, but I'd spent years thinking about that ring, dreaming about having that one piece of my mom back. So I went. Not completely stupid though. I texted the address to Marcus first, told him where I was going, just in case. The address was for a small office building downtown, Suite 305. I took the elevator up, my heart pounding the whole way. The door had Allied Partners stenciled on the frosted glass. I knocked twice. A man opened the door. Tall, gray hair, expensive suit. Not one of the men who'd come to my house with Tina. "Rebecca," he said, like we were old friends. "Come in." The office was nice, tasteful furniture, abstract art on the walls, a view of the park across the street. Not what I expected from loan sharks. "I'm Victor," the man said, gesturing to a chair across from his desk. "I believe we have some business to discuss." I sat down, keeping my bag close. "Where's Tina?" "She has my mom's ring." Victor smiled. Not a nice smile. The kind that makes you want to check if your wallet's still there. "Tina works for me. The ring is safe." He opened a drawer and pulled out a small box, pushed it across the desk. "See for yourself." I opened the box carefully. Inside was my mom's ring. The emerald surrounded by tiny diamonds. The gold band slightly worn on one side where she always twisted it when she was thinking. I reached for it, but Victor closed the box before I could touch it. "Not yet," he said. "We need to resolve some outstanding issues first." He pulled out a folder and opened it on his desk. Inside were copies of all the loan documents I'd been finding. The credit cards, the mortgage, everything. "Darla Winters has borrowed a considerable amount of money from my company," Victor said, flipping through the papers. "Using your mother's identity as collateral." "My mother is dead," I said flatly. "Has been for years. Darla committed fraud. Victor nodded. Yes, we've recently become aware of that unfortunate fact, which creates a problem for all of us. He explained that Darla had borrowed over $300,000 using my mom's identity. The beach house, bought with a mortgage in my mom's name, was supposed to be the collateral, but when Victor's people went to check on it after Darla disappeared, they discovered it had already been sold. The money gone. Darla is very good at what she does, Victor said, almost admiringly. She's been running this same scheme with different identities for years. That's not my problem, I said, even though I knew it wasn't that simple. Actually, it is. Victor slid another document across the desk. This is a deed transfer for your father's house. Sign it and all debts are cleared. You get the ring back. We never contact you again. I stared at the paper. You want me to give you my dad's house for debts I didn't create? I want to resolve this situation cleanly, Victor said. The alternative is much messier. I thought about the slashed tires, about the break-in at my dad's house, about how these people had found my apartment. I need time to think, I said, standing up. Victor nodded. You have 48 hours. After that, my associates will need to take a more direct approach. I left the office feeling sick. In the elevator down, I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Marcus. I called him back as soon as I got to my car. Where have you been? He asked, sounding worried. I've been trying to reach you. I told him about the meeting with Victor, about the ring, about the threat. Don't sign anything, Marcus said immediately, and don't go back to your apartment or your dad's house. Come to my office. Now, when I got there, Marcus wasn't alone. A woman in a pantsuit was sitting in his office. She introduced herself as Detective Andrea Wilson, Economic Crimes Unit. Your lawyer called us, she said, nodding toward Marcus. Said you might have information about a fraud case we've been working on. I spent the next 2 hours telling Detective Wilson everything. About Darla, about the loans, about Victor and the ring and the threats. She took notes and occasionally asked questions. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. We've been after Victor Reyes for 3 years, she said. He runs a sophisticated loan scheme targeting vulnerable people, usually widows or recent divorcees, but we've never been able to get enough evidence for charges. What about Darla? I asked. Darla Winters is one of his recruiters. She finds the targets, gains their trust, then introduces them to Victor's operation. When things go south, she disappears and moves on to the next mark. But she married my dad, I said. Lived with him for years. Detective Wilson nodded. Some cons are longer than others. The bigger the potential payoff, the more time they invest. It made a sick kind of sense. Darla had spent years with my dad, waiting for the right moment. When he died and left everything to me instead of her, she had to scramble, try to salvage what she could from the operation. So what do I do now? I asked. They want my dad's house. They threatened me. We want you to help us, Detective Wilson said. We need evidence of their threats, of the fraud. Something concrete we can take to a judge. You want me to wear a wire? I asked incredulously. Are you serious? Not exactly, she said, but we do need your cooperation. We spent the next hour working out a plan. I would contact Victor, tell him I was ready to sign the papers, but I needed proof that all the debts would be cleared. I needed documentation, paper trails, the kind of evidence that would nail him to the wall. It was risky. If Victor suspected anything, things could go bad quickly. But I was tired of running, tired of Darla and her schemes, tired of people trying to erase my mom. I called Victor that evening, told him I'd sign the papers, but I needed guarantees, written proof that all debts would be cleared. He agreed too quickly, which made me nervous. We set up a meeting for the next day. Same office, same time. That night, I stayed at a hotel Detective Wilson recommended. She had officers watching the place just in case. I barely slept, kept thinking about my mom's ring, about my dad's house, about all the things Darla had taken from me. The next morning, I met with Detective Wilson and her team. They gave me a phone with special software that would record everything, showed me how to use it, made me practice the key phrases they needed Victor to say on tape. Remember, Detective Wilson said as I was leaving, we'll be right outside. If anything feels wrong, just walk out. Don't try to be a hero. I nodded, but we both knew I wasn't walking out without my mom's ring. I arrived at Victor's office exactly on time. The same receptionist led me back to his office. This time, Tina was there too, standing by the window looking uncomfortable. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Rebecca, Victor greeted me warmly. I'm glad you've come to a sensible decision. I sat down across from him. I want to see the paperwork first. All of it. Victor smiled and pushed a folder toward me. Everything's in order. You sign the deed transfer, we clear all debts associated with your mother's name, and of course, you get the ring back. I opened the folder and started reading. The documents looked official. Letterhead from banks and credit card companies, statements showing zero balances, but something felt off. These are just printouts, I said, flipping through the pages. I need official documentation, signed releases, proof that these debts are actually cleared. Victor's smile tightened. You don't trust me, would you? In my position? He laughed. Fair point. He turned to Tina. Show her. Tina walked over and handed me a small box. Inside was my mom's ring. I took it out, checking for the tiny inscription inside the band. Forever. L. My dad's promise to my mom. It was real. I slipped it on my finger, where it belonged. The documentation, Victor. He sighed and opened his desk drawer, pulled out another folder. These are the originals, bank certified. You can call and verify if you'd like. I took the folder and started going through it carefully, looking for the phrases Detective Wilson had told me to watch for. Evidence of the fraud, of the threats. So once I sign this deed, I said casually, all the loans taken out in Elizabeth Carter's name will be forgiven, including the ones Darla Winters fraudulently obtained. Victor nodded. Everything will be wiped clean, as we discussed. And your associates will stop making threats against me? No more slashed tires or break-ins? Victor's eyes narrowed slightly. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do. I pulled out my phone, set it on the desk. Just like you know my mother has been dead for years. That Darla committed identity theft, that you helped her do it. The atmosphere in the room changed instantly. Victor's friendly demeanor vanished. I think you should sign the papers now, he said quietly, before this becomes unpleasant. It's already unpleasant, I said, standing up, and I'm not signing anything. I grabbed my phone and headed for the door. Victor didn't try to stop me. He didn't have to. 2 men were waiting in the hallway, the same ones who had come to my house with Tina. They blocked my path. Going somewhere? The taller one asked. I backed up into the office. Victor was still sitting at his desk, looking annoyed but not worried. This could have been simple, he said. Now it's complicated. I backed into the office, trying not to show how scared I was. The 2 guys in the hallway looked like they bench pressed small cars for fun. Victor just sat there all calm, like this was a normal Tuesday for him. Look, I said, gripping my phone tighter. I just want this over with. I want my mom's name cleared and to be left alone. Victor gestured to a chair. Sit down, Rebecca. Let's discuss this reasonably. I sat, but kept my phone in my hand, recording everything. The taller guy came in and stood by the door. The other one stayed in the hallway. Here's what's going to happen, Victor said, leaning forward. You're going going to sign these papers. Then you're going to forget everything about Darla, about the loans, about all of it. And if I don't," he smiled, not a nice smile. "We know where you live, where you work. We know about your friend Marcus. It would be unfortunate if anything happened." That's when Tina spoke up. "Uncle Vic, you said no one would get hurt." Victor shot her a look that could freeze lava. "Tina, wait outside." "But you promised." "Now." Tina hesitated, then walked out. As she passed me, she whispered, "I'm sorry." "Great. My only potential ally just bailed." I needed to stall until Detective Wilson realized something was wrong. "How do I know you'll actually clear the debts?" I asked, trying to sound calm. "You could take the house and still come after me." Victor sighed like I was being difficult on purpose. "Because it's good business. Once the deal is done, it's done. We move on." "Like you moved on from the other people you scammed, the widows Detective Wilson told me about?" Victor's face changed, just for a second. Then he was back to being Mr. Calm and collected. "You've been talking to the police, not a question." "Just covering my bases," I said, trying to sound casual while my heart hammered against my ribs. Victor nodded to the guy by the door. "Check her." The guy stepped forward and grabbed my phone. I tried to hold on to it, but he twisted my wrist until I let go. Pain shot up my arm. "Hey!" I yelled. "That's assault!" The guy ignored me, checking my phone, then handing it to Victor. Victor looked at it, then dropped it into a drawer. "Recording software. Cute." He closed the drawer. "Now we do this my way." He pushed the papers toward me again. "Sign." I was out of options. No phone, no backup. Just me against Victor and his goon squad. I picked up the pen, stalling for time. "I want to read it first," I said, flipping through the pages slowly. Victor drummed his fingers on the desk. "You're testing my patience." That's when we heard shouting from the reception area, then a crash. The guy by the door turned, reaching inside his jacket. Victor stood up. "What the hell is that?" The office door burst open. Detective Wilson stood there with her badge out, firearm drawn, 2 uniformed officers behind her. "Police! Everyone on the ground now!" The guy by the door froze. Victor looked like he'd swallowed something sour. "This is a private business meeting," he said, staying behind his desk. "You have no right." "Hands where I can see them," Detective Wilson shouted, firearm still aimed at the guy by the door. "Now!" The guy slowly raised his hands. The officers moved in and cuffed him. Detective Wilson kept her firearm on Victor. "Victor Reyes, you're under arrest for extortion, fraud, identity theft, and threatening a witness." Victor laughed. "You have nothing. This is harassment." Detective Wilson smiled. "Actually, we have everything, including the last 20 minutes of your conversation with Ms. Carter." She nodded toward me. I pulled up my sleeve, revealing a small recording device taped to my arm. The phone had been a decoy. "You should have checked her more thoroughly," Detective Wilson said as an officer cuffed Victor. I felt like I might throw up from relief. It had worked. The backup plan had actually worked. As they led Victor out, Detective Wilson came over to me. "You okay?" I nodded, still shaking a bit. "Where's Tina?" "We picked her up in the hallway. She's cooperating. Says she wants to make a deal." I followed Detective Wilson out to the main area. Tina was sitting with another officer, looking scared but relieved. When she saw me, she stood up. "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't know how bad it was until recently. They're my family, you know." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to hate her for being involved, but she looked as trapped as I had been. "What happens now?" I asked Detective Wilson as we rode the elevator down. "Now we process them, take statements, build our case." She looked at me. "Your testimony will be important." I spent the next 6 hours at the police station, giving my statement, identifying photos, signing papers. By the time I left, it was dark, and I was exhausted. Detective Wilson walked me to my car. "We're still looking for Darla," she said. "But with what we found in Victor's office, plus Tina's cooperation, we'll find her." I nodded, too tired to care much about Darla at that point. I just wanted to go home, but I wasn't sure where home was anymore. "What about my dad's house?" I asked. "And all those loans in my mom's name? We'll help you sort that out. It'll take time, but with proof of fraud, you can get it all cleared." She handed me her card. "Call me tomorrow. We'll start the process." I drove back to the hotel, crashed into bed, and slept for 12 straight hours. When I woke up, I had a text from an unknown number. "Storage Unit 452, Westside Storage, code 1308. What you're looking for is there. Tina. Had to be." I debated calling Detective Wilson, but curiosity won out. I drove to the storage place, found Unit 452, and punched in the code. The lock clicked open. Inside was like a weird museum of my childhood. My stuffed animals, photo albums, my mom's art supplies, even her clothes, all the things I thought Darla had thrown away or donated. She'd kept them, hidden them away in this storage unit. I sat down on a box and cried. Not sad tears, relief tears, like finding pieces of myself I thought were gone forever. As I sorted through things, I found a small wooden box I recognized from my mom's dresser. Inside were her jewelry pieces I remembered. Earrings, necklaces, bracelets, and a folded piece of paper. A letter. It wasn't from my mom. It was from Darla, to me. "Rebecca, if you're reading this, I'm either dead or in jail. Probably jail. I won't apologize. You wouldn't believe me anyway. But I couldn't throw these things away. Maybe that makes me less of a monster in your eyes. Maybe not." The key taped to this letter opens a safe deposit box at First National. Box 713. "What's inside belongs to you." It always did. Darla. Taped to the bottom was a small key. I called Detective Wilson right away. Told her about the storage unit, the letter, everything. She met me at the bank an hour later. The manager took us to the safe deposit room. Box 713 opened with the key from Darla's letter. Inside was a thick envelope and a small velvet pouch. The envelope contained documents, bank statements, account numbers, passwords, a list of names, other victims of their scams. It was evidence that could help the investigation, but not nearly as comprehensive as I'd expected from someone like Darla. "This will definitely help with the case," Detective Wilson said, examining the papers. "Not a complete confession, but it gives us more leads to follow." The velvet pouch held cash. Not a fortune, but several $1,000s. And a note. "Your dad's life insurance. Victor never knew about it. Neither did you." I sat there stunned. Darla had stolen from me, erased my mom, made my life hell, but she'd also saved these pieces of my past, and apparently hidden away some money that should have been mine. Detective Wilson looked at me. "This will need to be logged as evidence for now, but if it checks out as legitimate insurance proceeds, you should be able to claim it once the case is resolved." Over the next few weeks, things moved quickly. The police found more evidence against Victor and his operation in Darla's storage unit. They arrested 2 more associates. Tina got a deal for her cooperation. She even returned my mom's ring, though I'd already taken it from Victor's office. The bank began the process of clearing the fraudulent accounts in my mom's name. The mortgage company put the beach house loan investigation on hold pending the criminal case. My credit was still a mess, but Detective Wilson connected me with people who could help fix that. I moved back into my dad's house, our house. I put my mom's art supplies back in her studio, hung the family photos in the hallway again, set my stuffed animals on the shelf in my old room. It felt right, like putting pieces back where they belonged. Then one morning, about 3 months after everything went down, Detective Wilson called. "We found Darla," she said. My heart jumped. "Where?" "Mexico. Small coastal town. She's been living there under another name." "What happens now?" "We're preparing the paperwork for extradition. With the evidence we have, plus Tina's testimony, we have a strong case against her." I thought about it. About the storage unit full of my childhood. About the life insurance money she'd set aside. About the evidence she'd collected that was helping the investigation. What would happen to her? I asked. With all the charges? Probably 8 to 10 years minimum. I twisted my mom's ring around my finger. The one thing I'd wanted back more than anything. "She needs to face what she did," I said finally. 6 months later, I sat in a courtroom watching Darla plead guilty to reduced charges in exchange for testifying against Victor and his entire network. She looked older, tired, not so perfectly put together anymore. When it was over, she saw me in the hallway, stopped a few feet away, guards on either side of her. "I didn't throw them away," she said quietly. "Your things. I know. I'm not sorry for everything, but I'm sorry for that part." I nodded. "Not forgiveness, just acknowledgement." "The stuffed bear," I said. "The one my mom gave me for my 5th birthday. It wasn't in the storage unit." Darla looked away. "Check the attic. Left corner, behind the Christmas decorations." The guards led her away. I never saw her again. That night, I climbed into the attic with a flashlight, found the Christmas boxes, and there, wrapped in an old blanket, was my bear. Still soft, still smelling faintly of my mom's perfume. I took it downstairs and set it on my bed. A piece of my mom, a piece of me. Something Darla couldn't quite bring herself to erase. I still have it. And the ring, and the house, and all the memories that go with them. Some things can't be erased no matter how hard someone tries. Some things just wait to be found again.